regardless of where you're at and your situation, ultimately, you're not alone. There are people out there who are experiencing something similar or possibly exactly the same as you. And I would encourage you to connect with your colleagues, ones that you trust. Look for resources because there are resources to help you, whether it's legal resources, whether it's mental health resources, whatever you need, those resources are there. So don't be afraid to reach out.
In your opinion, what kind of health care policies do you think need to be implemented to kind of I won't say put an end to it because when will that happen? I don't know, but at least to make meaningful changes for the better.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a whole range of ways to answer this, I would say, Santoshi. I mean, I think, and I'm not even going to sit here and say I'm like an expert with policy or legislation. I would consider myself an expert troublemaker, and loudmouth, and who likes to stir the pot and catalyze things and so on and so forth. But I think things that are going to improve transparency, I think things that are going to put people and patients before profits are going to be critical. Ultimately, we talk about things like, is healthcare a human right? I think that needs to be discussed. I think we need to discuss, universal or basic levels of healthcare. I mean, I've been to things like remote area medical missions, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but literally hundreds of individuals will volunteer their time over the course of a weekend, give free medical, dental, and eye care. Millions of dollars of services that are given away through just the purest and golden hearts of other human beings. And this has been going on in the United States for 40 years. 40 years. What are we doing? Like, we have enough money to be treating everybody. We're pushing $5 trillion in terms of expenditures, nearly 20% of our GDP. And yet we have these clinics that are serving people who are desperate for care. There's a disconnect. And so you come back to things like transparency and profit motives and all these other things. It's such a wicked problem. I don't think there's a simple solution per se. Like, a lot of people will tout this or tout this. I think it's going to be years and layers of subsequent change is how this is going to get turned around. Which is why I think the more of us involved in some capacity or another is, in my opinion, really the solution.
I think more of us need to be involved with podcasts like this or films like Suck It Up, Buttercup. We encourage people to speak up. We encourage physicians to put the fear aside, to not feel that they have a golden handcuff, and to just, because ultimately this will affect all of us, and it's not affecting one or two people, it's affecting the majority of the physicians. So I do believe that we have to encourage everyone to speak up. What about your other advocacy projects? Can you tell us more about those?
Sure, I'd like to double click on something you said though, because I think it was brilliant. So first, and then I'll talk about Medicine Forward, which is the other one I'm quite involved in. But regardless of where you're at and your situation, ultimately you're not alone. There are people out there who are experiencing something similar or possibly exactly the same as you. And I would encourage you to connect with your colleagues, ones that you trust. Look for resources because there are resources to help you. Whether it's legal resources, whether it's mental health resources, whatever you need, those resources are there. So don't be afraid to reach out to your heck, message me. I might not have the answer, but I sure as heck can connect you with someone who might. And I'm on LinkedIn relatively regularly, I suppose. Sorry, I digress. So back to your other the question, which Shala, was about other projects. So I'm involved with Medicine Forward. Medicine Forward is an interesting group. It initially started as kind of an alternative way for physicians to organize. Um, Maybe the AMA in a parallel universe, if you were to overly simplify it. The reality is, getting physicians to organize, as you're kind of aware, is like herding cats at times. It's difficult. It's not easy. So the group has morphed over the years to where it's really a hodgepodge of all kinds of nurses, clinicians, physical therapists, patients, doctors, so on and so forth. The current mission statement is catalyzing positive change so the patient physician relationship can flourish. And we are fully aware that there is an entire ecosystem that supports that relationship that is absolutely critical. The fun part of Medicine Forward is we've started to do a decentralized way of organizing. And so there isn't this like heavy bureaucracy to experiment and try things and do stuff. A perfect example is Chris Beringer. He's a family physician who started a program called the Rising Star Program to help college students and medical students who are interested in writing or podcasting or event organizing to help them learn those skills and accelerate that path. So that's just one group I'm connected with. I've got connections with the Patient Revolution. I've got connections with the Kern National Network, had some connections with the Gold Foundation. There's so many amazing groups out there. Find one that is like your North Star and then go meet somebody, ask questions, and it might be interesting the doors that open for you.
It's really helpful advice to find someone to talk to. I think Shala and I have tried to advise people to do that as well on this podcast. Try to reach out, try to talk to your peers, LinkedIn. I think the issue from my standpoint as someone who's been in that position also is when you're kind of drowning, it's hard to know who to reach out to, right? Because you never know who has your best interest in mind. And oftentimes organizations that are in place to help physicians don't really help us at all. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
totally agree. You gave me another thought though. I don't know if you're familiar with the group Physicians Anonymous. Um,
no.
they have weekly meetings that are physicians only, totally anonymous. They have great facilitators. I know a handful of them. Joe Sherman's one, Jeff Cohn's another one. You know, there's no bills, there's no coding, there's no. You show up and you talk. I mean, if you're really looking for a safe, anonymous place, that is a great place to go. Dominic Corrigan, which is a pseudonym, was the founder of that. Really great guy.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. As an aside, how you do advocacy full time now, or are you still seeing patients?
um, I laugh because that, in and of itself, is a complicated answer. So, about a year and a half ago, I started missing seeing patients. Like I missed it, and I wasn't wanting to jump back into like the frying pan or whatever you want to call it of being employed at some hospital system that was going to tell me how many RVUs I needed to generate and all this other crap. Um, so I reached out to my buddy who's the chief medical officer for an ED group, ER group of about 200 physicians. It's emergency care specialists in Grand Rapids. Brilliant. Physician led, been around for 40 years, amazing culture. They do things the right way. They challenge the norms. They try and come up with better ways to deliver care. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, Chris, I know you guys are an ER group and you don't have any family physicians, but how about we talk and let's see what we can come up with? And so we did. And we had some good conversations. And I do a host of things for them, part of which is what we call complex disease management. So if someone's struggling to navigate the system, they can send me their records. I'll dig through them. I'll spend an hour or two with them and then send them out with a written game plan. To try and get back on track. And for those that have taken advantage of it, I think they've gotten a lot of yield out of it. So that's a long-winded answer to your question. I'm also, I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but I'm probably going to be doing some direct primary care in the near future, which I'm excited about as well, because again, no billing, no coding, spend time with people, get to the root of the problems, practice good medicine. So yeah, I do some that amount's going to be going up. The beauty of it is though, is I've found this way to sort of magically get these different worlds to overlap. Um, and like my current employer sees the value in me going out there and talking about the group and talking about what they're doing and bringing other amazing opportunities back to them. And honestly, I think there's more room for that in the space. I think if physician groups or organizations were creative and took the calculated risk to find someone who likes to think outside of the box and is well networked, there can be a treasure trove of yield related to that. It truly. So yeah, I love it. It's just every time I get a new patient to see, I'm like, ooh, this is great. I get to figure out what their problem is and dig into it and all this stuff, and I get excited again. So
You mentioned direct primary care. We interviewed one of our good friends and colleague, Dr. Leila Javidi, who went into direct primary care after getting burnt out. It's great what she describes, the autonomy that she was able to regain, the patient relationship, that we all went into medicine for, to be able to talk to your patient, to be able to discuss, even their family, what they're doing, where they're going on vacation, which nowadays there's no family physician that would have time, to discuss anything besides the chief complaint quick, and so it's really, really good to see that more physicians are thinking, family care physicians are thinking about direct primary care. And maybe that is one solution, towards ending this crazy cycle of burnout for family physicians. Do you see Suck It Up, Buttercup as the beginning of a larger efforts? Do you see more projects like that, on your horizon?
I would, based on the big old smile that got on my face, I think you probably know the answer to that question. Um, you know, the short answer is yes. We see Suck It Up Buttercup as hopefully being the start of a bit of a movement for people to put their fears aside and get involved in some capacity, which I think is important. Do I think there are going to be projects that come after this? I do. Have those come up just yet? Not in granular detail, but certainly some things have been discussed. I did want to come back to one of the things you're talking about with DPC too, though, because there's also direct specialty care, and that's been kind of creating a bit of a movement. And there's other platforms for people to connect to that. One of the ones that's coming to my mind is free market health for whatever reason, where individual clinicians, offices, or whatever can go on there, post their services, put their prices on there, and people can contract with them directly. So there's all kinds of things like this happening out there. But with Suck It Up Buttercup, do I think this is just the beginning of some rattling of cages, if you will? Yes, absolutely.
What stage is the documentary in now?
Couple layers to that one. Actually, I'm flying out to Portland, Oregon tomorrow. We're filming Dr. Glaucomflecken and his wife on Monday. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, but I'm excited to meet them in person and
Oh,
get
We're
to know
yeah.
big
them.
fans. We're big
Yeah.
fans.
Big fan.
Well, me too. Me too. Oh Lord. Anyway, so we're excited about that. But to answer the question, we're pretty much done with filming. So we're at the point where we have all these amazing interviews, all these amazing voices. We've got tons of B-roll. We're at the point where we're really trying to fill in gaps. And whether it's talking about an impact network in detail or the notion of learned helplessness a little bit more, there's a couple little pieces that we're going to have to get some gaps done. But I would say 90% of the filming is done. We're in full post-production phase at this point where we're getting a cut. We're figuring out what goes on the cutting room floor, what needs to be added, what statistics. We're getting close to potentially hiring a composer. I don't want to get ahead of myself there. We are targeting to be finished with the product by the end of 2025. The ultimate goal for this project is really to get it onto a streaming service because we feel like that's going to be the avenue to get it in front of the most eyeballs to have the biggest impact. But film festivals is in discussion. There's going to be other viewings at different organizations or entities, academic institutions, all that kind of stuff. So best case scenario, I hoping Q2 like 2026 we can get this out there like in a mass way for people to see. But again, this is like building an airplane after you've taken off. And you look over to the left and you're like, oh my God, we don't have a wing over there. We need a wing. Let's put a wing on this side. So it is truly a work in progress, but it's considering we've only truly been working on this for about a year, the progress to this point is just incredible.
We can't wait. If you could implement one policy, to change tomorrow to improve the healthcare system, what would that be? I know one policy is not enough, but what do you think is the most important thing that needs to change?
Oh boy, I think I'm getting to the stage where I get in these interviews where I'm potentially going to get myself in trouble. What I say in a good way. So I'm going to quote Tina Shaw on this one, and then I'll let you interpret it. She said, Healthcare is a human right. I have nothing else to say about it. So I'm going to let the audience interpret that as they may.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. The three websites that are appropriate to the things we talked about today. For the book, if you want to, you can go on Amazon or Google or whatever else and get the book. But if you want a copy of Ripple of Change and you want one that's signed, go to rippleofchange.us. For the documentary, suckitupbuttercupfilm.com is the website for that. Don't forget the film. And there's ways to support there as well. And the other one is medicineforward.org is the group that I do the most nonprofit work for.
The book is next on my list, and we can't wait for the documentary. Thanks for the audience, and thanks for tuning in to Be Empowered, the podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Stay strong, stay empowered, and we'll see you next time.